So decision is made. We're moving to Sicily, but we have a lot of things to do. We have a huge task ahead of us. We did own two homes, like I said before, one in Maryland, which was our residence, and one in South Carolina. We wanted to sell the house in Maryland, and we wanted to keep the house in South Carolina. So we needed to empty both homes from the furniture that we had. So we had to sell all that furniture. We had to put our house in Maryland in the market, so we had to get it ready for the market. Luckily, they were both new homes. We had built the house in Maryland in 2018 and the house in South Carolina in 2019. So they were both new homes. So we, getting them ready did not require us to fix anything, just to, make it presentable for buyers. The one in Maryland. The one in South Carolina, we worked with an agency to be able to rent the house where we lived in our uh, neighborhood in South Carolina. We are not able to rent the house short term for as an Airbnb because the HOA does not permit that. So we had to do a long-term rental, 1 year or more. So we gave it to an agency. The agency told us we needed to empty the house because for long-time rentals, it's a lot easier to rent without the furniture. So I had to sell all the furniture in South Carolina, and I lived in Maryland. So, I had to do all of that long distance. And then I had to sell the furniture in Maryland and get the house ready. And it was a huge task ahead of us. But we, rolled up our sleeves and we're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to move to Sicily. We got to do all these things. Let's do it. We also had two Labradors, a chocolate lab and a golden lab, that, without a question, were going to go with us to Sicily. So we also had to make sure that we had the paperwork that was required for dogs to travel. And that's not easy. That's a whole huge thing, that we had to worry about. But it was without a question that we were going to bring our girls with us. We love them. They're our family. You wouldn't leave your kids behind. You wouldn't leave your dogs behind. I never understood people that left their pets behind when they traveled. For us, it was not a question. We love our dogs. We've always had dogs. They were coming with us, and we would do whatever we would have to do, and whatever cost it was, we would take care of it. So we put the house on the market and we gave our house in South Carolina to an agency to be rented. The house in Maryland sold very quickly. I wasn't surprised. It was a beautiful home. Uh, that at that time, homes were selling very quickly in our area, so we sold it in just a couple of months. The problem was we still needed to wait 10 months for my husband to qualify for his 20 years service with the federal government so he could collect a pension, because we were counting on that money to be able to afford a retirement. Now, I wasn't going to collect any money. I was only 59. I wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to collect money. We were counting on my husband's retirement and Social Security to be able to afford it. We were lucky, but my husband put in a lot of work. For many years, he commuted, 3 hours a day to be able to make a little bit more money to provide for the family. Now we were, kind of happy that he had done all of that, because that allowed us to make the decision to retire early, because he was able to collect two different pensions. Um, but I had my company still, and I had to sell my company. It wasn't a big company, but it was little. But I did have to sell it because I couldn't just leave all my clients, out there, not provide the services for those that already had signed a contract. Luckily, my one of the girls that used to work for me decided that she wanted to buy it. So it worked out great. The company's actually still going on with the same name that I created. And this girl, 3 years later, she's doing phenomenal. I love watching her grow. with a company that I started. It's wonderful. It's a great feeling. But selling my company was very hard for me. It was one of the hardest things I had to do because I enjoyed that job. I loved my clients. They were mostly brides. I loved going to different locations and meeting new people and doing trials and doing hair and doing makeup. It was a lot of fun. It was a happy time. Getting married is a happy time. So for the most part, everybody was happy the day that we provided the services. It was just very hard for me to let that go. But we had made a decision, so I did let it go. I was very fortunate that one of the girls that worked for me decided to buy it, so I didn't have to advertise. It was just a change of hands, and none of my clients suffered from it because um, that girl plus the other team would have been the ones providing those services anyway. So everything continued. The company continued, and they're still, going strong, and it makes me very proud. I was very happy. But at the moment, I was sad because it was something that I really loved. So the house sold, and that made us have to move to a one-bedroom apartment with our dogs to wait for the 10 months to expire so the husband could collect that pension. So we packed up some of our furniture that we hadn't sold yet, and we moved into this one-bedroom apartment that allowed for us to bring our dogs. The apartment was close to where we lived, so it was not a huge move, but we had to hire a mover. We had to, sign paperwork, a short lease with the apartment, which cost more than if you sign a long lease with the apartment. But anyway, we needed to wait those 10 months. And let me tell you, when you go from a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, it's a shock to the system. But we made it work. It was a beautiful apartment, actually. It was fairly new, was clean, in a beautiful neighborhood, and our dogs had the space downstairs, so we would have to walk them because we didn't have a fenced yard anymore. But we needed to wait this 10 months. We moved to the apartment. We made it work, and 10 months doesn't seem like a long time, but it felt like a long time because we weren't used to the apartment. We hadn't lived in an apartment for many years. So, but I know a lot of people do live in apartments, and they're wonderful. We just hadn't lived in an apartment for many years. We've been married 45 years almost. In September will be 45 years, and we hadn't lived in an apartment since we were a young couple. But we made it work, and we're here. We survived. So the house is sold. The house in South Carolina is rented. We moved into the apartment. The next big task is getting the dogs ready, their paperwork ready to be able to travel. And let me tell you, that is a pain in the dot. Um, Luckily, we had a veterinarian that we've been using for our pets that had experience with dogs, pets traveling overseas, and he told us exactly what we needed to do. My husband had done research, so we had to, get all kinds of paperwork. We had to put them in kennels that were this big, and with the measurements, everything had to be just the way bureaucracy told us we had to do them. And the paperwork was a little tricky because from when you file the paperwork to when you receive an approval, you have a 10-day window. It's just 10 days. It's a window of time from when you receive it to when you leave that you can travel with the pets. If you go over those 10 days, you have to redo everything together, and everything takes weeks. Not easy. Bureaucracy makes it very hard to navigate. Like I said, though, we were lucky. We had a veterinarian that step by step helped us do all of that paperwork, and we did complete it, and we were able to bring our girls with us. And that's a whole new story that I'm going to tell you in just a second.